Okay, this is a shir on Likutei Sichos Chelek Chaf, the 20th volume of Likutei Sichos, the portion of Noach, the third sicha in the book. We're going to be talking here today a little bit. Today we have to have an introduction of something that is basic knowledge, particularly for those that are a little bit familiar with Kabbalah. For sure they know all about this, but in general we know about the fact that when we say Hashem's name, there's various ways of referring to Hashem. There's the way we refer to Hashem in the standard Yud Kei Vav Kei, which we don't say that name. We pronounce it Adnai, but it's the four-letter name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And then there's the name of Hashem, which is called Elokim. We know that the name Yud Kei Vav Kei denotes a name of Rachamim, of mercy. The name Yud Kei Elokim refers to a strictness, and that's the way Hashem is when He is judging, when He is being strict. Of course, while Hashem is one, and there's the whole basis of everything is Hashem Echad, there's one Hashem. Nonetheless, there's different ways that He manifests and different ways that He relates to the world, and depending on how He's relating to the world, that's the name, so to speak, that's the vessel, that's the garment that He's wearing, that's the name that He's called by. And with that introduction, we will jump into the first paragraph. In the pasuk, when we're talking about the flood that Noach went through, and Noach was in the ark, it says, "Vayizkor Elokim et Noach v'et kol hachaya," that Hashem remembered Noach and all the living beings that were there with him. I would say cooped up in the ark, but actually it turns out they had a pretty good time because they were coexisting. All the animals that usually eat each other up and create havoc, they were all in an idyllic existence. So much so that it's written that it was almost like the time of Mashiach in there. And that's why later on when Hashem tells Noach to go out, he doesn't go out so quick. He needs an instruction to go out. If they would be cooped up, the moment that the flood would be over and you'd be able to get out, they would have jumped out of there. But it's Noach waited for an instruction to go out. The reason for that is, we say, because it was actually there was it was a very peaceful existence in there. But at any rate, so Hashem remembers, Vayizkar Elokim. Rashi quotes that Hashem remembered. Remember, when we say the word Hashem, we don't denote which name of Hashem we're using. But in this case, the name of Hashem that's being used is Elokim, which is the name that speaks about strictness. And Rashi comments and says, Zeh Hashem midat hadinu. This name of Hashem, that it says that Hashem remembered Noach, is the strict name. But remembering Noach is an act of mercy. So the attribute of judgmentalism, the name that's usually used for strictness and judgment, was transformed to being one that was merciful. And that is what happens through the prayers of tzaddikim. So Noach was praying, he's a tzaddik, and therefore there's a transformation, and that same name of Hashem, which usually would be a name that is strict, was the name of Hashem that Hashem used to give kindness to Noach and the other living creatures in the table. Compare that with the inverse, with the opposite. Rishatan shel rishaim, the wickedness of the wicked, does the exact opposite. It takes Hashem's name of mercy and transforms it to a judgmental name, to a name of strictness. As it says, Vayar Hashem, that Hashem, using the name that usually means Kevavke, that means mercy. Hashem saw ki rabara ata adam, that the evil of man had increased. And Hashem said, I will wipe out the people from earth. So it turns out that the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is a name of mercy, is doing something strict. In other words, when the wicked are wicked, they get Hashem so upset that even when in his name of mercy, he acts with judgment. The tzaddikim awaken in Hashem such endearment, such love, that even in his name of strictness, he does kindness and mercy to them. Wonderful. But now the Rebbe challenges that, well, it doesn't challenge, but he asks the question. This earlier verse, where it says that Hashem made the decision to wipe out the people, it says that Hashem saw that the evil of the people was so much, and Hashem said, I will wipe out the people. So that question, that's already in last week's parsha. And yet, although there's a question how Hashem, with the name of mercy, is talking about wiping out the people, doesn't fit the name. The name of Elohim should be used. The question should be asked there in last week's parsha. It's not asked. In other words, the question there should be that if it's Hashem who's reacting here, Hashem in the name of the merciful name of Hashem, so how does he come out with such a judgmentalist, strict result that he says he wants to destroy the land? Nonetheless, Rashi does not pick up on it last week's parsha. He waits till this week's parsha when it says that Hashem had mercy, Elokim had mercy on Noach when he was in the ark, and only this week's parsha does Rashi comment about the effect that Tzaddikim or Rishaim can have in the name of Hashem. Why is that? Moreover, here, when it says that Hashem remembered, Elokim remembered, Rashi now goes and explains, once I've explained to you that the name Elokim that's being merciful here is because the love of the tzaddikim, love of Noach, changes Hashem's attribute of judgment to mercy. Now we'll understand retroactively why Hashem's name of mercy is being used to talk about punishment, because the reverse is true. The wicked can impress, so to speak, create the energy within Hashem, so to speak, that he changes his mercy to judgment. But so for this itself is imperative to say that we only get this understanding here where Hashem remembers Noach and treats him mercifully from the name of judgment. And only here do we come to this recognition to understand what the pasuk there means, that Hashem, with the name of mercy, gets angry at the wicked. So why? Why don't we understand it from that pasuk as well? That Hashem, in the name of mercy, midat harachamim, when the wicked make him upset, acts strict from a name of mercy. It seems to be openly, it seems to be the same clearness there as it is here. Now you can't answer that with the pasuk that says here that Hashem Elohim remembered. We still don't understand. Maybe this 5-year-old, remember Rashi's talking to the 5-year-old. Maybe the 5-year-old is not yet aware that the different names of Hashem refer to different attributes. I mean, the kid's learning. For him, everything is Hashem. You're going to tell him now that there's a difference between Hashem and the Yud Kei Vav Kei and Hashem and Elohim. So maybe Rashi here is telling us this. Maybe it's a piece of news for the 5-year-old. We can't say that because, and therefore Rashi waits till here because all of a sudden you see the changing of names. You see Yud Kei Vav Kei and Elohim. By this stage, the 5-year-old's got to pick up. He's going to ask his teacher, when is the name used? What's the difference between the names? Well, we can't say that the 5-year-old doesn't know it till here. You know why? Because first of all, why would this pasuk be any more clarity than previous pasuk? The fact that it says Vayizkar Elokim. But more than that, in the beginning of the Torah, we already have this discussion. The Torah says Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, Elokim created, right? And then Rashi already speaks to the 5-year-old, and he says it doesn't say bara Hashem. It says bara Elokim. It doesn't say that Yud Kei Vav Kei created. It says that Hashem created. How does Rashi explain it? He says because the beginning, there's already a tension in the beginning of the Torah between Elokim and Yud Kei Vav Kei. Because later on in the Torah, in Bereshit it says, on the day that Hashem Elokim created, he says that Yud Kei Vav Kei and Elokim were part of creation. Yet at Bereshit bara Elokim, the beginning God created, only the name Elokim is used. So Rashi introduces a concept that Hashem initially wanted to create the world in a strict way, judgmentally. He saw the world wouldn't survive. If Hashem's strict, how can people toe the line? They're gonna, they're people. They're not angels. Even angels can't stand up to Hashem's scrutiny. People can stand up to Hashem's scrutiny. So what did Hashem do? He wanted to have a world. So he mixed in mercy. So that's what Rashi tells us at the very beginning. Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, the intention was to create with Elokim with the name of strictness. Then later on, you see the pasuk refers back to creation and says, on the day that Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokim, merciful Elokim, creates heaven and earth. So Rashi tells the 5-year-old at the very beginning that there's an interplay here. There's a difference between the names of Hashem. So don't tell me we didn't know about it till now. We know about it. So if so, why, when the Torah says that Hashem saw that the people were bad and he decided to punish them, why there doesn't Rashi ask? How does Yud-Kei Vav-Kei get judgmental? And there he should have said, when the wicked are wicked, they turn even Hashem's merciful name to anger. Why does he wait to say it here? That when Elohim saw Noach, he became merciful. To say, how does Elohim get merciful? Elohim is judgment. To say, no. When that tzaddik prays, even the attribute of judgment becomes merciful. It should have been stated earlier. So it's a picking a question on Rashi, but it's going to lead us to a deeper understanding. Of course, that's what we're here for. It's a Rashi issue, but it's going to lead us into opening the issue of what's happening here, and it's going to give us a deeper understanding. So, paragraph 2. So we'll understand.
Why you need different names? Why can't you have one name?
Why, in general, do we need different names of Hashem? Hashem says, when Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, "Amru li ma shmo," when they ask me, "What's the name of the God who spoke to you?" Ma omar aleim, what will I say to them? And Hashem says, "Kefi midati." No, Hashem answers, "Kefi ma'asai and kefi midotai ani nikra." I am identified. A name is just an identification. I'm identified by what activity I'm doing. What am I doing at that moment? In other words, it's just a handle. It's all Hashem inside, so to speak. The question is he wearing the garb of mercy? Is he wearing the garb of judgment? Is he wearing the garb of nitzuach, of victory over an enemy? Whatever it is. So, yes, that does confuse people, particularly when they learn Chumash. What that seems to be, some people, but no.
Why in the translation it always says Hashem?
Because
English.
interesting,
Yeah.
because it doesn't. Unless Rashi picks up on it. Yeah, I didn't.
In Hebrew, it's all kind of name like.
Right, I'm not sure. It depends on the translator, but I think because ultimately what we're referring to is the power of Hashem that's vested in that name. In other words, the name is, as we say, it's just. So imagine you're looking at the light through a colored through a colored vessel. It's just a shade around it. So when we say Hashem said, unless we're getting into the details of the Kabbalah and the spheres, the sphere that we're talking about, otherwise it doesn't matter. We're talking about Hashem in general. That's what. So now we'll understand paragraph 2. First, we'll understand why Rashi says this topic that we just introduced, that Hashem saw the world cannot have any, cannot survive only with midas adin, only with strictness. So Hashem prefaced the attribute of mercy and joined it to the attribute of strictness. What does that mean? From the fact that Rashi says hiktim midas rachum, Hashem said first Hashem brought the mercy, and then he was able to make a partnership between mercy and strictness and create a world. What does it mean? He hiktim, he brought the mercy first. From this we understand that not just does Hashem make a blending of mercy and judgment, that there should be a blend of both attributes in an equal fashion. No. By Rashi telling it to us in the language that Hashem brought first the attribute of mercy, we understand that Hashem's default, Hashem's first approach is mercy. In other words, the main thing is the mercy of Hashem. Which would mean if the world is totally balanced, and we don't know, should Hashem be merciful or strict because there's a perfect balance, mercy will tip. Mercy will be the prevailing attribute. Because as the Torah says, hiktim, Hashem puts rachamim first, not just to balance and not just to be exactly equal with the strictness, but to be the basis upon which the world is created. So from this we understand that everything that happens in the world needs to be according to the slant, according to the approach of mercy. Even the einshim, even the punishments that come from above need to have the approval of the prevailing attribute, which is mercy. Because if you could have just a judgmental behavior from Hashem without racham, without mercy, Hashem already said he saw the world can't survive that way. So everything that Hashem does strictly means that there's a presence of it has the approval, has also the stamp of Hashem's mercy. Hashem's attribute of mercy allows for this strictness to happen because in the end of the day, it's merciful. In other words, because the world is created. Oh, so you ask, why doesn't Hashem just create mercy? Why does he need strictness? Just make it what's the word they use? Kumbaya. Just make it they call it rainbow. Everybody, free for all, no rules. Love, mercy, love. So the Rebbe says here in a square bracket, we also need strictness because the whole purpose of creation of the world is like Rashi says, for the purpose of the Jewish people to fulfill the Torah. What does Torah mean? It means the Jews should learn Torah, right? So if Jews should learn Torah and do mitzvahs, there needs to be some kind of a punishment and reward. There needs to be a justice system in order to make sure the Jews will learn Torah, because the moment that you say that there's creatures that have free choice and the purpose of creation is that they should be fulfilling this and not doing that, there needs to be some kind of a system whereby there's checks and balances. There's punishment if you don't do it. There's reward if you do it. There needs to be a system. If you just say, free for all, everybody do whatever they like. Whatever you feel like it, you do it. You don't feel like it, don't do it. That's not going to engender, that's not going to have a proper fulfillment of the Torah. There needs to be some kind of a merit system, a process whereby there's, positives and negatives, there's punishment and reward. But nonetheless, it needs to be that the rachamim, the mercy, is the overwhelming presence in this process. It would be like, to give an example in parenting, it's not like go to sleep whenever you like, get up whenever you like. No. We want you to be functional. We want you to be functional kids and to go to school and to do everything you got to do. There's a bedtime, there's a wake up time, but it's not that if you missed your bedtime, boom, shoot you. You didn't go to sleep on time, shoot you. You didn't keep the hello. That's midas harachamim. It's all from within the context of mercy, of Hashem's attribute of mercy. However, again, so this is a premise that we've now understood from this discussion, that when Hashem creates heaven and earth, yes, there's a blend, but the blend is a blend that the senior partner of creation is Hashem's mercy. Because if there's any part of the creation, any part of the system that's not merciful, Hashem already knows it's not going. The world cannot live up to the scrutiny of the midas hadin of the attribute of strict judgment. Now let's understand further paragraph 3. According to this, we'll understand simply why Rashi doesn't talk about the fact that Hashem, the merciful Hashem, said, I see the people are so bad, and Hashem, using the merciful name, said, I'm going to wipe out the people. And he doesn't use the strict name Elokim. Why doesn't Rashi pick up on it there? Because since we already know that everything has to be, the only way the world can be is by hiktim midat harachim, that Hashem prefaced the attribute of mercy in creation. So we understand that there needs to be, even for punishment, there needs to be permission from Hashem's merciful side. So we understand why the pasuk has to say that Hashem, in His mercy, said that He's going to have to wipe out the world. Because if it would say that Hashem in Elokim, if it would say Hashem's strict side said, I want to wipe out the world, we may say, 1 second, is Hashem giving the permission for the strict side, the strict attribute of his apparatus, of his operating system, to take over here and to override the merciful side? That goes against what we said, that for creation to happen, there needs to be an emphasis on mercy. So how does Hashem allow Elokim, so to speak, the attribute of din to be the overriding factor? So we say, no. So we would think that that's why Hashem says, that's why the Torah says it. No, Hashem's merciful side also said, in this case, for the overall better of the world, the merciful thing to do, the judgmental thing, but even Rachamim agrees to it. Remember, punishments are not vindictive. You have to remember that. Punishments are therapeutic, they're not vindictive. Even the Mabul, we talk about the Mabul, the flood, 40 days, 40 nights. The 40 is corresponding to the 40 sa'ah. There's an amount that is used for purification. The mikveh has a measure of 40 that's used in it. So it's a purification process, not a vindictive, not tit for tat. I mean, I get you. So Hashem's merciful side agrees that there should be a flood. However, nonetheless, even though that Hashem actualizes the flood through his Midat Adin, which is the name Elokim, nonetheless, we would say that the reason that Hashem says, Torah says, Vayomer Hashem, the merciful name said, I will wipe out people from the earth, maybe the Torah is speaking shorthand. In other words, the Torah can sometimes speak in a way where it doesn't give all the details. You have to fill in the dots. So what the Torah here means could very well be Hashem, in his merciful side, said, I will wipe out the people. In other words, Hashem said to Midat Adin, to the attribute of strictness, the time has come to put an end to this evil and to make a reset to the world. And I, in my benevolent side, also agree to this, but you, Midat Adin, attribute of judgment, carry out this punishment.
You can never get a punishment for Midat Hamid.
No, it would seem that the actual Hotza'ah Lepoal, the actual giving of that's what we would say. No, you could, but we could say here that the fact that it says Hashem is not that Hashem's Rachamim was transformed to be strict, but that Hashem said to Elokim, in other words, we don't have to learn that the Rishonim make Hashem's Rachamim so upset that it turns to judgment. We could still learn that no, it's just to say that Hashem's Rachamim is in agreement with this punishment. Look, the Rabbi says agreeably, it's not such a simple interpretation in the verse to say it this way. That Hashem, because it does say Hashem said, I will wipe out. How are we mixing in a Midat Adin here into the pasuk where it doesn't say it? However, we could understand that but if we haven't heard of this concept yet, that a person can anger Hashem to the point where Hashem's mercy turns to strictness, we wouldn't know it. The reverse we would know. If we would encounter a pasuk that seems to say that Hashem's strictness can if we say that that you can cause Hashem to that somebody can do something so bad that Hashem's Rachamim will agree with Midat Hadin to the punishment, that the mercy will agree to the judgment, to punishment, that we can understand. But to say that the actual Midat Rachamim, Hashem, the name Yudke Vavke means that's his garb of benevolence. To say that get transformed to din, we wouldn't say that carries out the punishment. So that's why Rashi doesn't say it where it says that Hashem saw how bad the people were. But now this that we're saying, that when it says Vayomer Hashem, it means that Hashem's attribute of mercy agreed to the punishment. Remember, because the moment we said that Hashem saw that judgment alone, din alone, cannot be the basis of the world, there needs to be a hikdim, there needs to first be the midat rachamim. That only works with rachamim, that mercy needs to be the basis, not strictness. It doesn't work the opposite way. When it says in the pasuk Vayizkar Elokim that Elokim was compassionate and remembered Noach, Elokim is a strict name. Now we have a question. How does a strict name, Elokim, Midat Adin, how does a name that denotes strictness become so compassionate to be Vayizkar, to remember Noach with love? It's the wrong name. It should be Vayizkar Yudke Vavke. The attribute of mercy should remember Noach and be aroused through Noach's prayers to love Noach. Even if you want to say that Vayizker Elokim means not that the Elokim name is the one that's becoming merciful, but it's Yudke Vavke that's becoming merciful. But Elokim is agreeing, but why would we just talk about the Midat Hadin? Remember, nothing can be just from Midat Hadin. We also need Midat HaRachamim. The world cannot survive just with judgment. There needs to be mercy. So it's very suspicious here, says Rashi, that the Torah speaks about Elokim remembering. And Rashi says this tells us something totally new. This tells us a radical thing. That yes, the name Elokim, which is a name of strictness, is the name that remembers Noach with compassion. You know why? Because there can be a transformation of the name of judgment of Hashem into compassion when there's such a love that Noach is beloved to Hashem, and that love is felt even by the name of Hashem of judgment. It gets transformed to mercy. Now, 1 second. The moment we have this chiddush, this novelty, that people and their behavior has the power to impact, so to speak, the way Hashem's name operates, and then the strictness of Hashem transforms to judgment, to mercy. The moment we have that, wow, a light bulb goes on in our mind, and we go back to the pasuk where Vayomer Yudke Vavke, where Hashem, merciful Hashem, says, I can't tolerate the badness of the people anymore. I'm going to wipe out and bring a flood. And we say, 1 second. Oh, what's happening here is not the way we said it, that it's Hashem agreeing to Elokim to do the punishment. No, we now have learned the concept that the actions of man, because Hashem is so interested in what's going on down here, he's, so to speak, there's a change that's affected by the actions of the created beings that also back then turned Hashem's merciful name to be a strict name.
How could that be the case and at the same time, there'll be a bias towards mercy? Our actions will turn
Because
them either way.
the bias towards mercy is even when Hashem's name of mercy gets transformed and starts acting in a strict way, it still has to be with a perspective of mercy. In other words, mercy doesn't mean that you're a total walkover, a pushover. There are limits, and mercy actually, in the long term, it is still more merciful for the punishment to be meted out. Punishments in the Torah are actually considered merciful in an interesting way. They're from the perspective of correctiveness, of correcting what went wrong, not punitive per se.
So
It's not the weakness. It's not the mercy.
There's two ways that
Yeah.
there's two ways that punishment can be looked at. It can be looked at as a kind of a revenge. You did something bad, I'm gonna get you. Or it can be as corrective. You messed up. We need to do things to you
but that's on both sides. That's if the harsh name is merciful or the merciful name is harsh. So which one is harsh?
It's true. What we're saying here is that the impact, in other words, you're saying that what we're saying here is that the impact of the negativity of the people of the flood was that even the name of Hashem that's merciful gets transformed to be strict.
So, Rabbi, does that mean then that the flood was an act of mercy because as a result of the flood, it saved the world?
We do talk
So
about
that strictness was merciful.
yeah, but we do talk about the flood being 40, just like the 40 measures of water in a mikveh was purifying.
So was the strictness merciful or was the merciful?
Let's read paragraph 5. We're going to ask your question, but in the reverse. Rabbi asks you now, what we need to understand is, why is it important that the prayers of tzaddikim should transform the attribute of strictness to mercy? Why doesn't Hashem just say, let me put on my hat of Yudke Vavke? Why do we need to do the impossible? That the name that Elokim remembers Noach, the strict name of Hashem remembers Noach. Why don't we just do the reverse? That the merciful name of Hashem remembers Noach. This is the reverse of what you're asking. What we're asking here, all of us, is the reverse. If Hashem's upset with the people, why do we need the name of Yudke Vavke to be judgmental? Why doesn't Hashem just move the name Elokim? But there we have something else. We have the fact that we want to make sure that the rule we gave, that Hashem creates the world with a bias towards mercy, hasn't been uprooted. But there can be such negativity where the bias towards mercy also gets, you're testing his patience to the extent that the merciful side is also agreeing we got to be judgmental here. So there we can understand maybe why we still want to have the Yudke Vavke in place, the merciful name of Hashem as the one that's looking into the problem. And if judgment needs to be done, we now know that it's not strictness, it's compassion that gets transformed into something so bad was done that it needs to react vociferously, it needs to react strictly. But the question is here, when we're remembering Noach, what would be the purpose to keep the Midas Hadin in place? Why keep the strict name as being the spout of being the leader of the operation? Just say Hashem should say, okay, enough with the strictness. Let me just let the Hashem, let the Midat Harachamim, let me react to Noach from Yudke Vavke. Why have this transformation of the name Elokim? So what the direction we're going to go is as follows. If there would have been, if the name Yudke Vavke would have been used, that would have just told us that Noach's high level, at his high level, Hashem says, okay, I'm not going to do this again. What we want to do here is Hashem wants to ensure the continuity of the world in every level, even when they're really bad in the future. Let's see it inside. The explanation is like this. The concept when we say that Hashem remembered Noach, what was the purpose of Hashem remembering Noach? The Torah is introducing the concept here that Hashem is going to make a covenant. He says, I'm not going to bring another flood to destroy the earth. This, Hashem negated the possibility of ever making a flood in the future. So it's not enough to say that Hashem's merciful name remembered Noach and made this commitment never to make the flood, because you could think, hey, there's still a voice in Hashem's, so to speak, arsenal, so to speak, the Midat Hadin, the attribute of judgment, didn't fully agree. Hashem's mercy says, I'm never going to do this again, but Hashem's attribute of judgment may still be, hey, I didn't agree to this, that it'll never be again, so to speak. So that's why we needed a total, in order for the Brit, for the covenant that this can never happen again to be fully binding, it affects even the name of Hashem of judgment that would be the one that would suggest such a punishment in the future. Vayizkor Elokim et Noach. Elokim became transformed to benevolence because of the prayers of the tzaddikim. Now we know it can never happen again. When Hashem, so to speak, even his judgmental, even his strict attribute, Shem Elokim, commits never to do it again, we know that it's done.
What does that mean when you say never do it again? That the world will never be
The world will never be totally covered by water and totally wiped out. Hashem says, I understand that people are challenged. Ki yetzer leva adam raminu urav. From the moment the child's born, they have inner desires that cause them to vacillate. And the fact that they're not fully perfect is okay. It's not okay, it's to be expected. And the fact that the world, I will never judge the world to, so to speak. What happened with the Mabel is Hashem, so to speak, had second thoughts. Maybe I should never have created the world. And he made a full reset. That will never happen again. There can be punishments to different parts of the environment, different parts of society, different parts of the world. That could happen. But a total reset like we had then, never again. So this needed to be from the name of Elokim to be transformed to that. We just asked that before. Why is there names? Why are there different names? The names are simply in order because when Hashem, a very basic, extremely basic explanation is Hashem is not definable. Really, when we say Hashem, it just means the name. We can't. The truth is, there's no name. Any name is a definition. You can't use any. But when Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, tell them what his name is. He says that Kefima Asai Ani Nikra. So so on. That's why Hashem, by the way, says Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem who took you out of Egypt. Rashi says, you saw me. Sometimes you see me as a loving father who takes you out with love. Then you see me at the sea like a warrior beating up the Egyptians. Like, who is he? I'm Hashem Elokecha. Shetziticha Me'etz Mitzrayim. It's the oneness of Hashem is the same everywhere. It's just wearing, so to speak, expressing itself through different character traits based on the way Hashem wants to relate to the world. The big one is mercy and din, Yudke Vavke and Elokim. That's the one that the Ben Chamish Lamika, the 5-year-old, is expected to know by now.
Should we view ourselves that way? Like, is this my judgment at acting out of mercy, or is this my mercy acting out of judgment when we make decisions?
Let's come back to that. It's a good. We need to think about that.
When we speak direct to Hashem, Baruch Atah.
When we speak Baruch Atah directly to Hashem, so interesting in the Amida, there are some Sidurim that have the Kabbalah in there, and they'll tell you what sphere are you talking to and what level you should be thinking about. But the Baal Shem Tov said once like this: when a child says "do," or when it got, when it just when we speak about the Eibishter, the one above Hashem, we're talking to the essence of Hashem. We don't need any. There's a simplicity there. And when we say Baruch Atah, in our Siddur, in the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe, he didn't put in the Kabbalah. If you want the Kabbalah, you can take a Siddur of the Arizal that has it in there. He said, we don't expect everybody to know it. Baruch Atah, blessed are you. Who's you? You, Hashem. Do. And we don't even say he. We don't even speak respectfully, third person. Second, we speak on the Baruch Atah. Guf Rishon. Guf Sheni. It's called Guf, whatever. Anyway, we speak directly to Hashem. So yeah, it's an important thing actually to mention, especially when we're talking about spheres and different things, to remember that there's a big Mekubal, I forget what his name was, who once said, name will come back to me, Ani mitpalel al da'at zeh hatinok. I know all the Kabbalistic levels of the names, but when I daven, I'm davening like a child turns to Hashem. He doesn't know anything. He just knows there's Hashem. That's the way I'm. And the Baal Shem Tov said that the God that do Hashem, that's the essence of Hashem. With simple people, when they turn to Hashem, it's simplicity. So simplicity is great.
Do is that?
Do means you.
The Yiddish?
Ata, do, you. Yeah. Paragraph 6. Now we're going to try and take a look at this. In the inner track. Let's take a look here in the inner track and hold on to the train because it's a deep concept here. I'm going to try and give it over. The pasuk says that Hashem remembered Noach. When we say this on the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah? There's what's called Malchiot, Zichronot, Shofrot. We speak about Hashem's kingship. We speak about remembrances. We speak about blowing the shofar. In remembrances, one of the verses we bring is that Hashem remembered Noach. So now, what is the purpose of speaking about remembrance on Rosh Hashanah? And what's the purpose to remember the covenant that Hashem made? The purpose of the remembrance of Rosh Hashanah is to remember the covenant that Hashem made with the Jewish people. Because even though we say that on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem remembers the entire world and looks at all the creatures and judges them, but the main remembrance of Rosh Hashanah has got to do with the Jews. And through the Jews being remembered on Rosh Hashanah and the covenant that Hashem makes with the Bnei Yisrael, that basically fuels, by extension, that applies to all of creation. So why do we speak about the pasuk of Hashem remembering Noach, which really has to do with the world having its existence? What does the pasuk say? Hashem remembered Noach. That's what it says. Vayizkor Elokim et Noach. Noach was in the ark. Hashem remembered Noach and all the living beings, and he said, I'm not going to do this again. So is this about the Jewish people or it's about the world at large? Seems to be about the world at large. You remember, we consider Noach as a Yehudi just because Yehudi means the purpose of creation. Adam HaRishon was the purpose, he was the only one. That went over to Noach. Noach, it doesn't matter if he wasn't a Jew, there were not Jews and non-Jews there. But at that stage, there was still just man who was the epicenter of creation. That's the Jew of creation. That's, in this case, this is Noach. But when it says Hashem remembered Noach and he remembered the whole world, all the living beings, and he says, I won't do a destruction again. So this verse is not just about remembering the Noach, the Bnei Israel. It's about the whole world. So why do we talk about it on Rosh Hashanah? So the explanation is brought that this remembrance, which is before the covenant, before the Kritot Brit, is mainly really not about all the other created beings in all the world. We're really talking, this pasuk is being selected, be talking about Hashem remembering Noach himself. And that's because when we're talking about remembering Noach, we're talking about remembering the essential virtue of the souls of the Jews. And that's why we say that also Noach, you remembered with love, which means the love that Hashem has to the Jewish souls. That's what's reflected in when we say that you remembered Noach with love. It's not about the whole world. Here, this pasuk is being brought that Hashem remembered Noach as the Jew of that time and made not a covenant, but he remembered him with love. But right after that, it says that he made a covenant with the world, that the world should stand. So after it says that you remembered Noach with love, the pasuk continues. On Rosh Hashanah we continue. We said that Hashem, you brought salvation to him, you brought mercy to him, right? When you brought the flood, and then you remembered Noach. That's why his memory comes before you, and the world will never again be destroyed. So why, when Hashem remembers Noach, why do we bring the verses? Hashem remembered Noach, which is, as we said, the love Hashem has for the Jew Noach. And then we talk about the fact that Hashem made a covenant that the whole world will have its existence. So the explanation is, what's the covenant that Hashem makes with Noach? It's not just that the world will exist. The world won't be destroyed again through a Mabul. The covenant is that the world will always be on track to fulfill the purpose of its creation. What's the purpose of creation? Purpose of creation, as we say in Bereshit, is for Yisrael, right? For the Jewish people to do Torah. So we understand that first we have to remember Noach as the Jew. Once Hashem reawakens that love, asserts his love for Noach, now he says, and I'm going to guarantee that the world will always fulfill, will always be on track with its mission of being the place where the Jew will express his mission on earth.
Why do we consider him a Jew?
Good question. The reason we consider him a Jew, I believe, is the same way we consider Adam HaRishon a Jew. Adam, when we talk about Jew, we mean that there's the lead actors, for lack of a better word, that are instructed to take the baton or take the mission and carry out the mission. Then there's all the rest of creation, which are all harmonizing and making a world into being, while that lead actor is carrying out the mission that he needs to carry out. So who was that person when there was only Adam? That was Adam. Who was that person till Avram comes and takes that and gets that mantle, or not even officially that mantle. Later on, it's only officially given by Sinai. But there's always somebody that needs to be transmitting that mission and continuing that. And at that time, it was Noach. Only later did it only go to Shem and not to Cham and Yefes. But right now, it's still all in the persona of Noach. Adam, the Metushelach, Chanoch. There was the purpose of creation was being handed down to the people that had the role, what today we call Yisrael. They had that role as being Bishvil. The world is for them.
Was Noach's wife also a Jew?
Her name was Nama. There was no Jew or no Jew at that time. But, it didn't go then by genetics. You see, even with Abraham, he had a Yishmael and he had a Yitzchak. Yaakov had a Esav. Yitzchak had a Esav and a Esav and a Yaakov. It didn't go then from the same wife, from Rivka. He has twins, born at the same time. One carries the Jewish tradition on. One becomes Esav, who becomes the arch enemy of the Jew. So it didn't go then by who the mother was or not mother was. It was, so to speak, so to speak, Hashem's choice, who recognized Hashem and who is ready to take it on, and who. So in this case, Noach is that Yisrael, is that Jew. So what we're saying is that Hashem remembers Noach, and the extension of that is that he makes a covenant with the world, that the world will always be consistent with what needs to be fulfilled by the Jew in the world. Now paragraph 7, this concept that the covenant with Noach, that the world should have its existence, is that not just the world should be physically existence, but the world should be able to live up to the purpose of its existence. We see also is expressed by the covenant that there should be no change in the world. What was the covenant? Hashem said there'll never be a cessation of the world. All the Od Kol Yimei Haaretz, for the rest of the days of the world, there'll be the 6 seasons. Lo yishbotu. The word Od Kol Yimei Haaretz, Zera, V'Kayitz, V'Chorev, V'Kom, Lo yishbotu. All the seasons will not cease. In other words, what does that mean when there's a continuum of the hum of creation? Nature is unchanging. Doesn't stop. Just keep it. The sun comes up, and then there's summer and winter and thing, and then. You're onto something. Where does that consistency come from? Interesting. We talk about nature, right? And then we talk about the fact that, you see, when we talk about nature, we use the name Elokim, you're right, has the same numerical value as nature. We talk about nature versus miracle. Nature is natural. Miracle is the open intervention of Hashem into creation. When we talk about the consistency, the eternal consistency of the cycle of the world, is that natural or supernatural?
Natural.
So what we're saying is the fact that there can be a consistency in an eternal way, when Hashem promises it will never stop, that's really a supernatural injection into the world of nature. In other words, there's the name of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, there's a verse in the Navi that says, Ani Havaya Lo Shaniti. I am Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, who never changes. I'm infinite. Anything finite really should have changes. It shouldn't be consistently running with the same precision as it ran from the beginning. It should be changes. When Hashem promises that it's going to be continuous, that's Havaya, that's Yud-Kei Vav-Kei injected. That's the infinity of Hashem injected into the finity of the world, into the finiteness of the world. The sun, the whole planet, the planet runs in a way that we don't see any changes. Maybe there are certain aspects that change, but the general, the sun, the moon, the tides, the seasons.
The nature.
Not stuff like that.
גם tornadoes זה חלק מהטבע.
Yeah.
Always was.
It
What
doesn't mean
about
that.
the metaphysical structure? Can that change?
Earthquake always was.
I think the metaphysical, the way it fuels the physical, also he's saying doesn't change.
When the Sadiqim prayed and took that.
Oh, certain aspects. Oh, so you're right. Hashem can override. Good point. There can be an overriding. What we're talking now here is even that dependability of the unceasingness, the ongoing, when Hashem says the world is going to now, what happened is 1,000, whatever, 1,300, whenever the flood came, all of a sudden everything, whatever you could have said was predictable became unpredictable. For the whole time that the flood went, there was no day, night, the sun didn't work, the moon didn't work, the stars, nothing worked. Hashem said, it's never going to happen again. It's going to be, I'm going to click my fingers, it's going to go forever. So long as there, so where is that? So what I was saying is that itself is a infinity that Hashem places into nature, which we assume nature is finite. So that's the Ein Sof, the unlimited of Hashem being injected there. So that means to say that the strength that's given into the world through the making of this covenant is not what usually we expect in the world, which is an obscuring of Hashem. This consistency is a way we can see the revelation of Hashem, because we see the unlimited light of Hashem, which is beyond change.
So we don't believe that human life on earth could end under any circumstances?
Human life is another thing. No, I guess not. So I don't know that here is particularly speaking about human life. He's talking about the galaxies, the atmosphere, the whole apparatus of nature. Yeah, well, believing that we're the main character means we can never finish on earth. Otherwise, there's no purpose for earth. The whole reason for the world is people should be here.
So there cannot be extinction of mankind or extinction of the universe.
I don't think so, right? Although you would,
It's an important question.
According to
but you would have to ask me that there is a medrash, there is that the Gemara speaks about that in the seventh year, it talks about Chad Chruv. There's 1 year of desolation, of destruction. What does that mean in this context? Does this just mean that for 6,000 years the world is going to work unceasingly? I don't know. I can't answer that off the cuff. Paragraph 8. So according to this, now we'll understand also something else. It says that Hashem smelled the scent of Noach's sacrifices. And what did that create? That made Hashem be so happy that he said, I'm going to make a covenant with Noach, never to do this again. I'm never going to curse the earth to this extent that it's just going to be wiped out. And Rashi brings, the Medrash brings, which scent, what fragrance smelled did he smell? You would assume he smelled what Noach made. That Noach, first thing he did when he went out is he brought some sacrifices. No. Medrash says the sweet smell is the smell of Avraham Avinu, who went into the fiery furnace. It wasn't burned, but that act of sacrifice, he was ready in order not to deny God. Nimrod asked him, either you deny God or we throw you into a fiery furnace. He said, I'm not denying God. He was thrown into the furnace, he came out alive. That smell, that sacrifice, the sacrifice of Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, who also were given that same ultimatum. They were thrown into the fiery furnace. The fragrance of the generation of the 10 martyrs, Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues who were killed by the Romans because they didn't want to walk away from Hashem. That created a special, that's what Hashem smelled and said, I have to inject longevity into the world, permanence into the world. So the question is, why, what about Noach's sacrifice? Why isn't that enough to make Hashem make a covenant that the world should have an existence? Why do we need the fragrance of the sacrifice, even to the extent of the sacrifice of the greatest tests in history, Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues who were killed brutally by the Romans? Why do I need that for Hashem? It's not enough that Noach brought sacrifice to Hashem, for Hashem to make that commitment that there won't happen again. The explanation is, we're talking about a commitment that Hashem makes, a covenant that lo yishbotu, the world should never cease. Where is that coming from? That has to come from the level of infinity of Hashem, the place where Hashem says, I am Hashem who has never changed. And number two, it has to be revealed in nature. In other words, Hashem wants that infinity to be injected in nature so that nature continues forever. Although nature is finite, it's going to continue with a consistency that makes it seem infinite. Where is there a kind of activity that human beings can do down here below where there's the unlimitedness, the infinity of Hashem gets expressed in their persona, Mesiras Nefesh. When a person is ready to give up his life, where he won't yield, nothing will change him. Death will not move him to move away from Hashem. Even the greatest obscurity, even the greatest challenges, don't disturb him. His connection to Hashem is unyielding. That's the expression of Hashem's infinity in the human devotion. On the other hand, that strength of unyieldingness, of sacrifice for Hashem, what brings it out? What brings it out? In a counterintuitive way, the ha'alamot, the obscuring of Hashem's name. In other words, the suffering of Hashem not being revealed. I mean, the greatest obscuring of Hashem's name is when the Romans, who are enemies of Hashem, are successful and powerful, and they're able to take that tzaddikim, who are truly connected to Hashem and should be invincible, and able to crush them. So when that doesn't cause the tzaddik, but the tzaddik stands unyielding. The infinity of Hashem is expressed in a very funny way when Hashem's presence is obscured, and yet the tzaddik stays staunch. That itself brings out the fact that the martyr is connected to Hashem in a way of infinity, higher than any limitations. And what brings out the unyieldingness of the commitment of the Jew to Hashem is always, historically, has always been when the greatest tests have come, when the greatest darkness has been, the Jew has become the greatest hero. The heroicness, the stoicness, the connection to Hashem, that nothing will move him, has always been brought out by the greatest ha'alamot ve'esterim, by the greatest obscuring of Hashem's presence. When a Jew, hang on one second, when a Jew overcomes that, you know what he shows? That really the whole purpose of this obscuring, the whole purpose of this test is only to elicit from within the Jew a power that he never knew he had, even perhaps, to stay committed to Hashem beyond any reason, beyond any limitation.
How could he know during this time of Noah that Avram and
Hashem you're right, good question. Hashem's projecting into the future of what will happen in the future, that he will have these, he anticipates that kind of commitment. Hashem, past, present, future is all the same. It happened later, but he anticipates it now, and that is, so to speak, what retroactively.
So does that mean they didn't have free will when they made the decision?
Good question. It's they had free will, but they had free will. They have to. If you take away their free will, you're taking away their greatness.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But it's
So they have to have free will, but Hashem knows in advance what they chose. Hashem's looking and see, wow, they chose well, and now he's ready to invest in this venture, and say, I'm going to give it a permanence because they're acting with me in a supernatural, permanent way, within obscurity. I'm gonna bring this forward now, like a forward payment, which I know that they did.
Know what they
The
chose.
paradox.
That beyond us to understand. It's a good question. That's one of the big discussions. How Hashem knows what we're going to choose, yet we have free choice.
The paradox.
Paradox. It's a discussion. There's many aspects to it, but right now I'll just take it as it is. Paragraph 9, and this is also the explanation. We say that Hashem remembered Noach, and it led to the covenant. Why it had to be from Elokim? Remember, we're asking, what's so bad if Yud Kei Vav Kei, the merciful name of Hashem, remembers Noach? Why does Hashem insist that he wants his judgmental name to remember Noach? You know why? Because this concept that nature should become a conduit for revealing godliness needs to have the name Elokim. As you pointed out, the name Elokim is the source for nature. Where does the nature and the obscuring of Hashem's presence in the world, which we call nature, from which name of Hashem does that come? From the name Elokim, which has the numerical value of nature. So we need that name to now become a conduit for revealing Hashem's presence. The Elokim has to be revealing what usually is revealed by Yud Kei Vav Kei. And why does Hashem transform that name of judgment to mercy? Is because of the love. Hashem remembers Noach with love, the deep and essential love that Hashem has to the Jewish people because of the etzem ma'alat neshamot Yisrael, because the essential virtue of the souls of Israel, that they are sourced in the essence of Hashem Himself. Hashem, the way He is, beyond any attributes. And because of that deep love that Hashem has for Noach, of the Bnei Yisrael, as they're represented by Noach, even that's higher than any attribute, and therefore the attributes can get transformed. The judgment can get transformed to mercy. And this all comes down below till we say that ultimately all the hiddenness and obscuringness, the troubles and tribulations the Jews have with their Yiddishkeit, what will happen is that not just will they not stop us from doing Yiddishkeit, but again, the same thing's going to happen. The din, in other words, the troubles, the things that look to us to be challenges, stopping us from connecting to Hashem, will transform and become the things that help us get close to Hashem. The Rebbe is saying this in 1980. Interestingly, in the later 1980s, the Rebbe pointed out that the same Russian government who had fought tooth and nail against religion, against Judaism, communism, that same apparatus later became one of those that assisted the Jewish people. And if you go today, actually, to leave the country and also to build Yiddishkeit there. There's yeshivas, there's shuls, there's even the Russian prison has a Jewish chaplain. There's Yiddishkeit there. That's a transformation. But that's just a temporary transformation. Really, what can happen is in Egypt, before the Jews left Egypt, it says the Jews, the Jews had light in Egypt. In other words, we think only the good times can come when Mashiach comes. Even in Egypt, before they left, the Jews had some good times, right at the end. So we're right at the end of the exile. We can, even Mashiach should come right now. But even if the dilly-dallies, a few nanoseconds, we bless, that was blessing us. We should have good times now also. We should see how the thing that seems to fight us is actually the thing that can come and help us. And this should be a preparation for the coming of Mashiach, where it says that foreign people will come and be the shepherds of your sheep, and you'll be able to sit and study Torah. The coming of Mashiach speedily in our days. Mamish.
הקשבתי לדוגמה של רבי עקיבא